Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to another segment of Elevate with myself, Zahra Al-Alawi. Today I've been told to speak about Sayyid and non-Sayyid marriages. This has been a huge discussion, and every time we have a question and answer session on the channel, or every time there's a conference and there's a question and answer session, this question constantly seems to come up. Where many people say that it's haram, they actually state it's haram for a Sayyid to get married to a non-Sayyid, be it a girl or the man. And that really has posed a huge discussion, and many people say, you know, no, it is haram. Many people say, no, it's not. People say it's not recommended. People say it is recommended. So it is really a topic that we should touch upon. First of all, to say that this is not a topic that affects all cultures or all races. I believe that this topic really does affect the Indian or the Pakistani culture. There's a lot of belief within that. I haven't really seen this issue come up, you know, in the Arabic marriages or the Arabic cultures. So that's number one to state. Number two is that, you know, it's one thing for me to sit down and say, no, it's not haram for Sayyids to marry non-Sayyids, but I really don't want to take it through my perspective, because there's perhaps people that will say, you know, what makes you say that it's not haram or is haram. So moving on to see what the Maraja say, and the Maraja or the Mujtahideen, what they say about this topic. So when we look at what the Maraja say, you'll find that all the Maraja say that it is not haram for a Sayyid to marry a non-Sayyid. Look at the rulings in regards to Sayyid Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, Ayatollah Rouhani, Ayatollah Khorasani, Ayatollah Shirazi. All of them, all the Maraja say that it's not haram for a Sayyid to marry a non-Sayyid, and there's no basis in this in terms of Islam, Quran, Hadith, tradition, fiqh. There's nothing that states that a non-Sayyid marries a Sayyid. So the people that are arguing against this say that the whole issue of Sadat in Islam, that obviously Sadat have a privilege in some sense. There's some stuff that are halal for Sadat and some stuff that are haram for them because they have a certain preference, but one a privilege, let me say. But when you look at Islam, that Islam doesn't put someone on a higher pedestal because of their lineage. Being from the lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is definitely something that's favored, or something that is someone should be proud about, being from such a pure and holy lineage. But to say that someone is not worthy of getting married to because they are not from that lineage is something different. We shouldn't be putting more complications, more limitations when our youth want to get married because someone doesn't come from a particular lineage. When, as a parent, if you're choosing a correct or a suitable spouse for your child, the best thing that you could do is choose a righteous spouse, someone that you would know that will be with your daughter or your son and be on the path of Islam, and be on the right path of Muhammad wa Muhammad and the teachings of Islam. That's the main thing, that you are content with someone raising your grandchildren and your children in the correct way. There are many people, unfortunately, that do come from the lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and are Sayyids or Sayyidas, and they are far from the actions of Islam. To say that someone is a Sayyid or a Sayyida and, you know, they are suddenly the best option to get married to is really not being realistic at all. And someone that's probably non-Sayyid is probably a more suitable partner for your daughter or your son than someone that is Sayyid. So that's very important to think about, that when you are choosing a spouse, whether you're choosing a spouse yourself or you're choosing a spouse for your daughter or your son, it's very important to look at their characteristics, their stand with Islam, their actions, and also how their family deal with Islam, and to purely base it on Sayyids, and to reject a good partner and a good husband or a good wife that they are on the right path and they are righteous, and to reject them purely on the fact that they're not Sayyid is something which I believe is a shame, and it's something that we should not be doing. We shouldn't be putting these limitations at all. So when we're discussing this topic, we see that a lot of people also email in, and I remember we had a Sayyid or a Sheikh on TV, and we were talking about this topic, and he said, and the callers were saying, no, it's haram to marry, for a Sayyid to marry a non-Sayyid. And he turned around and he said to him, would you let your daughter, because he was a Sayyid, would you let your daughter marry a non-Sayyid? And the Sayyid turned around and he said, yes, in fact, my daughter is married to a non-Sayyid. I myself, my dad's a Sayyid, and I'm married to a non-Sayyid. I've got 10 sisters, and all of them are married to non-Sayyids, except for one. So it does happen, and you see that there's many people that are married to non-Sayyids that have a very prosperous and happy marriage, and are really on the right path, on the path of Islam and the Ahl Bayt alayhim as-salam, and their partners are not Sayyids. So you cannot determine the happiness or the safeguarding your children that they will be on the right path purely based on if they marry a Sayyid or not. Now, looking at Islam and looking at the Imams, another question arises that, did the Imams marry Sayyidas? Did all the Imams marry Sayyidas? And that is not the case at all. That when we look at the Imams themselves, for example, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he married Shahrabanu, who is a Persian princess. So she wasn't Sayyid, she wasn't even Arab. She was the mother of the Imam Zayn al-Abidin. So that's number one. For people that say that they follow the Ahlul Bayt, and you follow the Imams, and you follow Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and the Imams, for you to say, no, it's haram for a Sayyid to marry a non-Sayyid, why don't you look at the examples of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and the Imams? Imam al-Hussein didn't marry a Sayyida, he didn't even marry an Arab. When you look at Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, his wife was Hamida from North Africa. She wasn't even an Arab, she wasn't even a Sayyida herself. And then you look at all the Imams, Imam al-Kadhim, Imam al-Rida, all the Imams, they did not marry a Sayyida. So to say that no, my son or daughter have to marry a Sayyida, well, look at the examples of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and they really did show us that it wasn't required for someone to marry a Sayyid, or for a girl to marry a Sayyid, or for a Sayyid to marry a Sayyida. Imam al-Jawadi, Imam al-Hadi, Imam al-Askari, all of them did not marry Sayyidas. So that's a very important point to mention, that for us to say that we are the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and looking at the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, is saying that they did not marry Sayyidas, and for us to say, no, our children, and putting these limitations and putting these new rules in religion which did not exist, that is something that is really frowned upon. So we shouldn't be putting these limitations. Even the female personalities in the Ahlul Bayt, they didn't marry a Sayyid as well. So to say that it's okay for men, but it's not okay for women. The women of the Ahlul Bayt also as well, there's many examples that they did not marry a Sayyid. So there is no basis of this in Islam. I was personally shocked when I first heard about this. When the first time I heard about this, I said, where did this come from? It doesn't make sense at all to say it's haram for a Sayyid to marry a non-Sayyid. It just has no basis in Islam, it has no basis in the Quran, it has no basis in the Hadith, has no basis in fiqh, and majority of the Maraja would say that this is not the case. So for anyone that is tackling or dealing with this issue, for their parents not allowing them to marry a Sayyid, a non-Sayyid, the best thing is to do is for those to refer to the Maraja and see what the Maraja has said in regards to this issue, and that's, I believe, how we deal with this issue. And just before we're ending off, I believe that, it's one thing to say it's haram, but if you say that you prefer to marry a Sayyid, for a Sayyid to say, okay, I prefer to marry a Sayyid because I want my children to be from the lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's a different issue. That's okay, because that's your preference. In terms of anything else, it's your preference to get married to who you want to get married to, with the the characteristics that you want to get married to who you want to get married to. So that's one thing. For example, a parent to say, I want my child or my daughter or my son to marry a Sayyid or a Sayyida because I want my grandchildren to be from the lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's one case. But to say it's completely haram and not allowed, that's something that you cannot invent rules and invent haram and halal, you know, to Islam when it has no basis. So I believe that although some people have a preference, that's absolutely fine. If you have a preference to marry a certain someone from the lineage of Prophet Muhammad, that's absolutely fine. But to say it's haram, like I said, there's no basis in Islam. And for anyone that wants to research further, there's many content on the internet in regards to this, and just referring to a marja would give you the direct answer in terms of this topic. I hope this covered this topic. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.